Hey guys, welcome into the Bear With Us podcast. I'm Jack with the mic closer to his face versus Frank, who's on the left. We have so many little misnomers, little names that we have for each other now, Frank. We've collected quite the few. I'm testing I wanted to hold the mic. I've been watching a lot of Seinfeld recently, and he holds the mic. And kind of want to be like him. Have you ever seen that show?
Oh, I love that show. Yeah, I watched it.
It's the first time I've ever watched it.
Really?
I've never seen it before.
Well, but here's the thing though. Did you have cable growing up?
Yeah.
So yeah. I didn't. So when I was a kid, and it's funny because a lot of people ask me like why I'm a Cubs fan that grew up in Bridgeport, and that was why. I had like 5 channels. So it was 2, 7, 9, 26, and 50. And then like Seinfeld came on, I think channel 26.
Yeah.
Nonstop. And it is one though.
They're just rerunning it.
Yeah, that's all. It was the only thing that was on there. It was that and like the Steve Harvey show and shit. It was great. But I need to go back. That's one that I need to watch as an adult because I feel like I probably missed so much being a kid. But I did watch a lot of it though.
I've had some good laughs. It's definitely wild. You know, it's so focused in the 90s where it's like a whole episode was centered around an answering machine. Like that's never gonna happen again. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
It's a wild throwback. But speaking of the Cubs and WGN, you think they're going to update that song? That song they play every time they win? Because there's still that lyric about how
that's
catch them on WGN, and it's like they're not even.
No, they're not. I feel like
anymore.
You can't. I think people still associate the Cubs with WGN. At least
it's like
probably
iconic,
our generation
song.
And above, right?
Do you like that song?
I do. Do you like it?
It's growing on me. It's a little corny. It's a little cornball.
It's a little corny, but I
can understand why people don't like it. I'll say that.
Okay, that's fair. But here's the thing. After Game 7, I was way up north by a buddy's house. I was full on crying from the 8th inning on, and then I drove home going down Lakeshore Drive with just that
blasting
on nonstop. Nothing will ever beat that moment.
Yeah.
Not the birth of my children, not getting married, not meeting the love of my life, not becoming a grandparent. That moment, Jackie, I could have died on Lakeshore Drive, and I would have been okay.
You know what, though? I bet there is something that can beat that moment. And I think it was the Bears beating the Washington Commanders Thursday Night Football.
To go 1-4, baby.
To go 1-4, baby. 40-20. 40-20, Frank. Look at that transition. Boom. Right back into it. No, if you guys can't tell, Frank and I are in a better mood than we normally are. My Sunday wasn't completely ruined at all, actually. Not even completely. It just wasn't ruined because I didn't have to worry about the Bears. They got the W early, and I could just kick back and watch my fantasy team absolutely dominate in multiple leagues. Feel good. I'm feeling good, Frankie. Part of that, because the Bears finally got their first win. And the fact that some people are upset by that, oh, come on, got to get Caleb Williams. It's like, listen, on one hand, I get it, because there are I think 8 teams right now that have less than a 1 win or less. That's a wild stat.
Yeah, it's rough.
That teams, there's some bad football being played, Frankie. There's some really bad football being played right now. But no, it's a good feeling. I think this team desperately needed this win. I really think there was. Let's just talk positives. We'll get to the Claypool stuff in a little bit later. But I want to talk a little bit about the game. I want to start there. And I just thought this team really responded to a really rough couple of weeks. It looked like Eberflus kind of had this team locked in, and he was. I liked his game plan. I'm not going to lie. Some of the defensive calls he was making, especially in the first half, things got a little scary in the second half, and we'll touch on that. But no, this team looked locked in.
They did. And, me and you were texting during the game just to sort of put a cap on the Eberflus point. And while at the end of the day, the retort can always be, well, that's still coaching. I totally get that, to anyone in the comments who's going to say that exact thing. But some of the blitzes he's drawn up these last couple of weeks, guys are getting home. Like, at the end of the day, he can't literally make the tackle for them. And this isn't to advocate for, I'm still very upset with what he's done over the last couple of years, but there has been a very drastic improvement over him calling the plays and Alan Williams calling the plays outside of that Chiefs game, but they're the Chiefs. And it was good to see on both sides of the ball, really, Jack, just some more a more common sense approach. I think outside of what was that? Was that the third quarter where the Broncos really, or the Commanders really started making a run, and then the defense sort of shored itself back up. Maybe we got some turnovers. I mean, it's starting to come to fruition a little bit. So that side of the ball, to me, that should be the floor of that side of the ball. We knew what we were signing up for when they got a coach whose scheme is to cover 2. You're going to give up yardage. That's why that portion of things never really upset me outside of the long third downs that they give up. What the biggest mark for this team has to be turning the ball over, because we know that teams are going to be able to drive 20-20, especially without a pass rush, right? But if they can keep that up, Jackie, this is sort of what we thought we were getting out of this defense. They're not going to be world beaters, maybe middle of the pack, be situationally good, and anyone can go back to our past episodes. Like, this is sort of what we expected. So hopefully this is a building block for them to move forward.
I think that's probably what was most frustrating for me throughout the season so far. And kind of, as happy as I was that they got their first win, I think there was a lot of frustration that lied in that win, because it's like, this is the team that we expected to see all year. Like, the offense, the play designs they were using, DJ Moore, obviously, maybe not expecting him to have 230 yards every single game and 3 touchdown catches all the time, but, get force feeding him the ball, basically. Cole Kmet had a really solid game. The run game was working when it was called upon until everybody got hurt, and they were relying on their fullback, who, shout out to Blasingame. He was playing, he made a couple of nice moves. He looked like David Montgomery. And they were throwing him wheel routes because Luke Getsy's he doesn't care that he's a fullback. He's getting the goddamn ball. That was a little disappointing. But no, I mean, you're right. They were getting to him. I think they had 5 sacks, which was really nice. And honestly, the sack total, like you said, should be higher on the season, just because they do get to the quarterback. They just don't finish those plays, which is why a lot of that frustration was really boiling over, because it was just like, why are there so many mental mistakes? This was definitely their cleanest game, which, again, maybe not the best thing, because they still looked really shaky in the second half. That second half was not good. Not good at all. The Commanders made the adjustments necessary, and the Bears just did what they have been doing, which is, have a really strong first half, and then the second half, it's a little bit more questionable. So it's still a lot of things to clean up, right? This was not a perfect game. I honestly thought they played better against the Broncos than they did against the Commanders, and they got the win this time. So there's a lot of room to improve, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But I think that's what's exciting, too. It's frustrating in the sense that we hadn't seen a performance like this all year, because this is more of what we thought we'd be getting week in and week out. But it's also good because they still scored 40 points, and you kind of felt like they left some points on the table with some of the throws to Mooney, and I know you want to touch on him. And just the defense obviously giving up some really big plays. But yeah, I liked how guys, Greg Stroman came in and played really, really well. Terrell Smith, their rookie corner, who they really liked, he came in and played well. Andrew Billings, you talked about it before the season
started. At the
started,
family night, when I went to family night, he was fucking dominating that practice. Then Gervon Dexter is another one who had a phenomenal game. Shout out to Ryan Poles.
And they called him Gervon Dexter on the broadcast, and
I noticed that.
Thought we were taking heat for that, but whatever. Zach Pickens still not playing as much as I thought as much as I think he should be playing. But I think they're starting to get that rotation settled in. Justin Jones played a lot better, I thought. The linebackers still, though, they just disappear too much for my liking. They don't make any really big splash plays. I think we're just paying a little too much money for Tremaine Edmonds. Like, he needs to pick up the pace a little bit. And Jaquan Brisker, I think he's just a guy. It's a little disappointing, but we'll see. We'll see. I know he's not fully healthy, and the secondary, it sounds like Kyler Gordon's should be back soon. Jalen Johnson, I believe, should play. It sounds like he should play this week against the Vikings. And Kyler Gordon is designated to return from IR. So they might be getting healthy, but there's still some big questions all over this team.
Yeah, well, and before we transition to the offense, I mean, that was and I don't want to keep harping on this. I know we brought this up before. We brought it up right when the draft picks were in. But, I mean, think of like some of the best safeties that we've seen. You think of, Mike Brown. You think of Brian Dawkins. I mean, just anyone. The list goes on from great safety. Like, what impact would they even make on this defense if we had them in their prime? Like that, I mean, remember, that was our problem. Like, safety's almost like that cherry on top of like, bam, here's your last level playmaker that's either a big hitter or goes out and gets the ball. He's a center fielder type of guy. And it's like, even if he was any of those things, what would that bring to this defense at this point in the development of the whole defense? That's what we were upset with. But Jackie, again, not to harp too much on the negatives, dude, can I just say, the obligatory Justin Fields looks fucking great again. DJ Moore is a goddamn dog. Anyone who thought that he wasn't a real wide receiver one, I mean, you have to be eating your words at this point. But, if you want to touch more deeply on them, you can. But, dude, Tevin Jenkins is really fucking good at football.
Yep.
Immediately, Jackie, when he goes in, the first rotation, it was okay. But then when the center got hurt, when Lucas Patrick got hurt, and then the rotation was over with, it's just Tev. Jack, I forgot what the stat was. I meant to screenshot the tweet, but when they ran the ball, it was like 10 or 12 straight times towards Tev, and like either in him, I was gonna say in him, Jesus, on the inside or on the edge, but to the left side, they were averaging like 6 yards a carry, dude. And you just watch some of this film that's being broken down. He is just mean and nasty. And just, I mean, everything you want out of a guard, he is that. God, I hope he can stay healthy, because he is so, like, you don't think of like exciting gameplay when you think about interior linemen, but just watch his film for those who haven't. Even if it's just a couple quick clips on Twitter, he is fucking mauling people.
I think he brings a little edge to that offensive line too, because you saw Darnell Wright playing a little bit. He was knocking guys over. Shout out to Larry Borum. I think just having a good guard also makes your tackle play a little bit easier as well. Some gigantic question marks, though, when it comes to Cody Whitehair and his snapping ability. I have legitimate concerns about that, because I'm just thinking of that play where Justin, he has to tap the ball to himself and basically just run like a QB draw right up the middle for like 8 yards. It's just some really, really ugly snaps, but it is good to have Tevin Jenkins back. You're absolutely right. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Like I said, though, shout out to Larry Borum for playing some really solid left tackle. I mean, I was getting texts from people left and right about how this defensive line was going to just tee off, and it was going to be basically that Cleveland game all over again. And I would say for most of the game, they got him a little bit in the second half, but for the most part, that offensive line gave some really clean pockets for Justin to throw from. And it's kind of crazy how when you have clean pockets, you have a little more time to make the throws that you need to make. A little weird how that works.
Yep.
Weird how it works.
I will say as well, Jack, I'm remembering 2 sacks off the top of my head. There may have been more of that on Justin throughout the game. But I just remember when the game ended, and I'm sort of thinking back of some of the talking points, some of the things, that I want to say on the podcast. And the first thing I thought was like, those sacks were on Justin. And I'll take that. Like, that's okay. Yeah. Like, those types of sacks, I don't want to say like they're acceptable. I want him to get the ball out. I want him to make, complete passes and things. But I would much rather have my quarterback be holding the ball a little bit too long because he's trying to make a play, or maybe he couldn't read the defense as well that particular play, versus pressure is in his face in a second and he has no time to do anything. Those types of sacks, whatever. It is what it is. Hope you get that cleaned up. But, Jack, that offensive line played very good overall.
Yeah, Nate Davis too.
I was just going to say.
Nate Davis had a good game.
Nate Davis played very well. I do remember Borum getting beat once, but Justin was able to evade. And I remember, why do I keep, you just said his name, a rookie right tackle. Why do I keep forgetting his name?
Wright.
Darnell Wright. He got beat once as well.
Don't you forget it.
I believe Justin also got out of that. Jackie, a quick note on the commentating. Have we ever been subjected to Justin Fields used to play baseball? I've never heard. Where did they get this? I'm not saying they made it up. I'm just saying, why was it so applicable in that game? They brought it up like 4 times.
They love that those primetime broadcasts, man. They love to get hooked on stuff, especially when it's teams that you don't really talk about a lot. You kind of hone in on one thing and sort of just keep going on and on and on about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I thought that was strange as well.
And then I thought they were done with it. And it reminded me, because you brought up Cody Whitehair's snapping ability, and I thought they were done with it all. And then he gives the bad snap, and he like taps it up and gets into like, well, he has that baseball background. And I'm like, what about baseball just helped him make that play?
No, I have no idea. I don't. I legitimately. Speaking of Justin Fields, though, they're, you know, he had a good game. Let's not get it twisted. He had a good game. There was still a ton of room to improve, but I think this is as good as a follow-up performance as I think you really could have hoped for after that game in Denver. Because, you know, you and I watching the film afterwards, I think you and I were both convinced that a lot of this could be carried over to the next game. It wasn't just that Denver was really bad. There were some things he was doing really well that would have worked against a lot of defenses, good or bad. And him throwing for almost 300 yards and 4 touchdowns again, I think was really, really great. Granted, it was a little over only 50% completion. He only completed passes to one wide receiver, DJ Moore, obviously, and a lot of that was the yak stuff. But again, I'm not worried about the yak stuff, because that's, you and I have been begging for that, begging for them to get Justin Fields some help. And that's what help looks like. That's what good players do. They make. Do you think Kirk Cousins is just throwing 300 air yards? Like the ball's just traveling 300 yards no, he throws it 8 yards to Justin Jefferson and lets him run for an extra 40. That's how guys throw for 300 yards. That's how that works. And I thought DJ Moore was just making some really great plays. Justin's numbers honestly should have been even better, but he missed some throws to Darnell Mooney. And I think one thing you were texting me this, and it really made me start to notice it. And I don't mean to steal your point, but I'm going to. Justin's really got to learn how to step up in that pocket, because some of those throws he was missing short or long, it would have been easier if he had just stepped up into the throw, got a little momentum going. So I would really like to see, and he had the room to do it. The pocket was clean, man. That was frustrating, I think. It was just like if he just stepped up a couple of times and just threw the ball, delivered it. But I mean, the throws he was completing. Dimes. Frankie.
No, he was
dimes.
He to a whole point, Jack. The point that I thought you were going to steal, and it's fitting that today is the day that you're stealing from me. But
why is that?
It's Indigenous Peoples Day. Jack.
No, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. This episode's going on Tuesday.
Yeah, no, good point. We get a fucking day. We don't even get a week, Jack. Can you believe it?
You don't even get a month.
No, the
some people get months.
I know. But the biggest point, because Justin did, I remember him vividly missing DJ on a throw in the end zone. It was a bad toss. His stat should have been higher, because DJ, I have yet to see him actually step out of bounds. I don't know if there has been clarity on that. But they didn't even, like, in real time, I don't know if it was you, I texted down and I was like, where did he step out? Like, can they show us this replay? Because that wasn't a thing.
They zoomed right past it.
I mean, I think the Bears, to be fair, though, and, here I am sort of stepping on my own point, but the Bears weren't hurry-up offense. They went right back at it, so it was tough. But the point that I thought you were going to make was I noticed at least three routes in which Darnell Mooney just wasn't finishing the route. That very one, I believe it was the first drive of the first quarter, Justin throws a dime to him, and literally, if he just takes 2 or 3 more steps and breadbaskets that thing, he may be, a 70-something yard touchdown. He tries to pull some weird contortionist, throw my body up. He still almost made the grab, but it's moments like that I'm like, I don't know. It was weird. Like, did you lose the ball on the lights? Are you trying to make a highlight play?
Running, and then he turned and was like kind of running backwards and then like jumped this way, jumped backwards.
He must have had a bad read on the ball, because he initially turned as if Justin threw it to the wrong shoulder, but he didn't. And then he tried to like twist back again, and then he just completely missed the catch. So there was like 2 or 3 routes like that for him, but then there was another one, I believe it was the third quarter, in which Cole Kmet did the exact same thing. It was a little like corner post route around midfield, and Justin throws it to a spot, and Cole just like looked at the ball, and I was like, what just happened right there? And I hearkened back to, people wanting Justin, and us included, to make those types of throws, and it's like, whose fault is this then? Is this coaching that's not getting these guys on the same page? Are they seeing because sometimes these are like option routes. It could be I sit down if I see this, or I go to the corner. Are they not, like, something has to give, because Justin made those two sort of jump out on me, and I'm like, that's not only extra yardage, but that was the third down play where the Commanders were making a little comeback there. That extends drives, that eats into the clock even more. Like, this all adds up to something. All for me to say that completion percentage aside, Justin balled out. Like, he was phenomenal. Even, like, people, if they want to do the yak thing on the last touchdown to DJ Moore, look at that ball placement on that thing. That was fun. That was right where it needed to be. He took advantage of a cornerback who was trying to make a play for his team, and that cornerback got bit in the ass because Justin put it in the only place that the corner couldn't catch it.
Threw it high.
But but the receiver could. And so all of that is, what he talked about, playing free, wanting to just play his game. That looked like that to me. Last point, same point you made. That's the only place I haven't seen Justin progress. If he just can step up, because sometimes the step up in the pocket isn't even going to lead to a throw, but that can lead to an easier rollout. He's great at that, like, spin around the edge and evade the edge rush, but he doesn't even have to always do that. If he just steps up and goes to the left or the right, that can extend the play a little bit easier for him. So that's one thing that I hope coaches are in his ear about, that we can see a little bit of progress, because I don't want his career, whether it's here or elsewhere, because I like him, I'm a fan of him, to get to where Russell Wilson is. Because that's why Russell Wilson is largely ineffective now, even out of the pocket, because he never learned to step. Like, he doesn't step up. He goes around edges. And you get older, athleticism isn't necessarily there, elusiveness isn't necessarily there. I want Justin to build those habits now. But all in all, he played phenomenal.
Which, I don't know, you brought this up as well. I hate to keep stealing your points, but again, I'm going to continue to do so because they're good points and I want to sound smart. I don't know if it's like Justin, his legs are still, something's going on. I don't know if there's something there, but he looks slow. Like, he's turning the corner slow. He doesn't look like he's able to get away from certain. I don't know if maybe it's just the angles guys are taking are better, or that, they have enough film on him now to know when he's going to run, but it's just like everything looks slower. He doesn't look quite as fast as he did last year. And maybe that's him bulking up. Maybe he put on some additional muscle, to throw the ball better. I don't know, but it doesn't look quite right. But talking about Justin's performance, Frank, he's right now tied with the number of touchdowns and the number of interceptions thrown. He's got 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. You know who are the other two guys right now that have those same numbers? Josh Allen and Tua Tagovailoa. Yeah, I'll take that every fucking time. Second in touchdowns. He's got more touchdown passes than Patrick Mahomes. Now, I'm not going to go crazy and say anything, that necessarily means anything, but he's right up there. Yeah. He's right up there with everybody else, with all the other good quarterbacks.
He's making the steps, especially these last two games, that we wanted to see from him. As far as I'm concerned, Jack, and I don't like to get into the overarching thing, the only chance that I'm entertaining a Caleb Williams conversation, because the Bears are too talented to have the number 1 pick on their own. And even the number 2, they're better than some of these teams at the bottom. I'm not saying, I'm not advocating for them to be a playoff team after what we saw through 5 weeks. But the only way I'm entertaining that is if Carolina gets the Bears the first pick. And then you're sort of forced in this position to say, fuck, we won 6 games. There's progress. Justin took some steps, but is this kid generational? Then we can have the talk. Get what I'm saying? Like, it's I've seen too much progress from him to want to just completely tank, trade high like these fucking bozos at ESPN are advocating for, and trade him to Atlanta. I've seen too much from this kid to want the number 1 pick to be from the Bears. That's my only point when it comes to his progression.
And again, Bears fans, I don't know if they should. The ultimate hope should still be Justin being good. That should still be the hope, because then again, if you get that number 1 pick again through the Panthers, right? And Caleb Williams is this generational talent, but guess what? So is Justin Fields. Justin Fields can be, a top level player, that you and I still think there's room for that to happen. Think about the haul they got for Bryce Young.
I know.
You don't think they'd get more for Caleb Williams?
Jack, and then you know what I was thinking about today? Depending on who's at number 2 or who would want to trade to number 2, you may be in that same position that they were in last year when they almost traded with the Texans to go to number 2 and then trade back to who I think that was the Titans, that was the other team. Because people are very high on May out of UNC, and I've seen some of his highlights, and he certainly doesn't look like Mitch. He looks like a different prospect coming out of UNC. Right. So they may be in that position if it all comes true. But even then, the point that I thought you were going to make was, let's just say that Caleb Williams let's live in that world, that he's the next Andrew Luck, he's the next Peyton Manning, he's that level of prospect. You want Justin to be good anyway, because you could probably trade him for a first-round pick then if you're dead set on moving on to the next guy.
To a team that has like the 5th or 6th overall pick that's not going to get Drake
one or
May
two. Yep.
or not get Penix Jr. out of Washington. And I just wanted to say Penix because, I mean, come on. Maybe it's Penix. I don't know, but I like saying Penix.
You're in a win-win there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no matter how you look at it. Again, I think our angle's a little bit different because I want this team to move forward with Justin. I do think he's that guy. But regardless, anyone rooting for him to fail is a weirdo.
I'll say that, maybe the Panthers trading their 2 best overall players not at the quarterback position maybe wasn't the best idea. Because we could be stuck with Bryce Young right now, and I'm glad we're not. If it was CJ Stroud, I think I'd feel good. But then again, who knows where he would be with this coaching staff? It's a whole other conversation.
Yep.
But I just think for continuity purposes, my overall hope is that Justin is good. I still want Justin Fields to be good because I think he is good. Mm-hmm. And he's been playing good. He's made some really good plays. He's made some really good throws. And you're getting into this situation where the Bears are just changing coaches and quarterback and just changing in and out. It's too much. And good teams don't do that. Now, granted, you have to make the right move so you don't have to continue to make overall changes. But and I still think this coaching staff, there's still a lot of question marks that need to be answered. I really liked Eberflus's approach. I really liked him being aggressive and not just playing to not lose. I didn't think that was happening on Thursday. I just think they were playing poorly in the second half, which has got to get cleaned up. I still don't think Eberflus is the answer. I don't know if Getsy is really the answer either. I will say, though, I have really liked his first half approach. I've liked the play calls he's made. There's a lot of progress there, I think. My only concern still is his adjustment ability because, again, that third quarter offense, when you needed to make plays, they just weren't doing it. And he's calling wheel routes for fullbacks. He's not getting his wide receivers involved outside of DJ Moore again. And he's not using Tyler Scott, where it's like Tyler Scott, you watch some of those plays and he's open. He's open, but the play isn't schemed to go towards him. So I would like to see him get more involved, especially with Chase Claypool out. I really thought Tyler Scott was going to have an opportunity to step up, and it just didn't happen because Equanimeous St. Brown apparently is the wide receiver 3. And to your point regarding Mooney, I think we saw a lot of the physical limitations that you and I have been concerned about. Now, granted, George McCaskey thinks he's the reason they'll win the Super Bowl, so let's not get it twisted. But we need a wide receiver 2 to really step up and get 4 catches for 70 yards, like just somewhere in that range. Like you need a Gabe Davis in this offense, and they don't have that. So as much as I want a good left tackle, a good pass rusher with one of those 2 first-round picks the Bears are going to have, that's why you go back to Marvin Harrison Jr. Like you might need to draft him because maybe you get Justin Jefferson. Get a little crazy. Vikings not going anywhere either. All right. Let's not get it twisted. He might be available.
And they didn't extend him either. I don't know what the hell they're thinking.
Jerry Jeudy might be available. T. Higgins.
T would be one.
Michael Pittman Jr.
Maybe.
Might be available as well. You need a good 2. And Darnell Mooney is not that. And I'd like to see what we have in Tyler Scott. And he just hasn't been given that opportunity. And it's a little bit frustrating. It's a little bit frustrating.
I totally agree. And that was going to be my only overarching critique of the team and specifically Justin. We need give me a full 4 quarters of high octane, high level football. That doesn't mean score 60 somewhere. I just mean Well, that would be
Mind
nice,
it.
but I'm saying
Wouldn't
like
mind it.
the benchmark isn't like points scored or yards given up or sat like you can't point to a stat because you can look at this box score and oh well they won 40-20. Like what do you mean they didn't play 4 quarters of football? Like that was a 10-point game at one point and their kicker missed a 41-yarder that pretty much sealed the deal for us. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was that was a fucking close game for a good portion of the second half. And that goes down to the play calling, that goes down to some execution. And honestly, like pointing it back at Eberflus is just stay aggressive, man. That first half, that defense was flying. And then all of a sudden it's nothing but prevent defense. And
that third down defense is going to be the death of me, man.
Jackie, I'm telling
Teams
you.
are completing like 60% of the
I was just going to say,
opportunities on third
I
down.
haven't looked at the stat, but there has to be a stat that the Bears lead the league in most third downs given up. And they have to have the most missed sacks in the league. Those two, that has to get cleaned up. Because again, I know this team is going to give up yardage. Even if and when they get a pass rusher, and if as long as they're running this scheme, they're going to give up yards. People want to look at those great defenses with the Bears, with Urlacher and Briggs and Tillman. They gave up yards too. Their claim to fame was they were situationally good. They got big sacks on third down, and they turned the ball over. That's what we need this team to do. They're not going to not give up yards. Like it's just,
Right.
it is. That's what the cover two shell defense. Who was it? One of the Denver coaches. They asked like, well, what does it may have been Eric Bieniemy. Like, what do the Bears defense do well? And he's like, well, what their philosophy is they're going to give down a dump down and then they collapse on you. Like that's what they do. And he described what Urlacher and Briggs did for their whole fucking career in Chicago. They didn't. Well, Urlacher was a very good coverage linebacker, but generally speaking, they let someone catch the ball and they collapsed and went for fumbles. They collapsed and tried to knock the ball loose. Like, that's okay. But it just situationally, dude, they can be so soft. Like, I don't get how you get a team in 3rd and 13 and you say, here's the time where we call off the dogs.
We play off 20 yards and
It's
let them.
insane, man.
Especially because I like I said though, I did like Eberflus and how the amount of blitzing he decided to do.
Yep.
I thought was great, and the people he was sending, it wasn't just extra linebackers or extra passer. He was sending
Safeties,
corners, he was safeties, he was sending everybody.
It was nice.
And I thought it was great seeing him put some pressure on a young quarter. It's what we've been asking for. Is that you said it perfectly to start the podcast. This game made sense. This was a game overall, except for the third down stuff, obviously you were just describing, but for the most part, everything made a lot of sense. Whereas like on the Commander side, you kind of shake your head a little bit. I didn't realize they only ran the ball 10 times and 4 of those carries was through Sam Howell. It's like this Bears defense is terrible against the run and they only ran 6 times with Brian Robinson. Like I think that just goes to show how good the defensive line really was playing, especially like Andrew Billings on that first drive on the 3rd and short where he just blew up that play and got the turnover. And that's what you need, man. Like you need this defense to turn the ball over, give this offense a chance to work through a short field. That's why the 2018 team was so successful on offense, because Mitch only had to work with the fucking field every time, you know?
I know.
So more of that, please. More of that would be ultimately great. I think it would be remiss not to talk about the Khalil Herbert injury. It sounds like the Bears might be without him for a little bit. I hate the play that he got hurt on too, because I get what Herbert was trying to do. And I do think it was a miss on Justin Fields' part. But I also see what Justin thought he was going to do, basically stop, get the first down, and then run, where Herbert was like, I have this whole field in front of me. I'm going to go. And then he sort of threw it in between, and Herbert had to try and make a play. He got his foot caught and ended up spraining his ankle. And props to him for trying to work through it with Roshan Johnson out with the concussion. Travis Homer got hurt
he had a hamstring,
as well.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why they were down to Blasingame, because now Donta Foreman was inactive. Sounds like he should be good to go this week, though. We'll see if Roshan can play. I expect him to be running back 1 if he does. Frankie, are you concerned about the Khalil Herbert injury? Because he was having a pretty good game. He
was playing well, and that, really quick, that's what I was going to say. You can chalk it up to Justin missing. I'm okay with that, but I lean towards what you said. He thought he was. Why are you like? That's a tough throw to be to lead you to a pass.
Yeah.
You just stand still, catch the ball, If you can run after that, great, but you at least get the first down right there and extend that drive. Anyway, am I concerned? Concern, I don't think is the word. He's coming off a good game, a good couple of games. I still think, based on what I saw, that Roschon is the better runner. I like Herbert, so we need to make sure that he's healthy. On a human level, I hope Herbert gets. I hope they didn't come off horribly. Like I hope he gets healthy soon. I like him as a running back. But this is exactly where the D'Onta Foreman signing comes into play. I'm actually surprised he hasn't been. I just don't think they can utilize 3 backs. I don't think Getsy has that in him. But he's still a really good running back too. They signed. Why am I blanking on from the practice squad? Darrington Evans. He's back up. So the running back room still looks good, and it's because Roschon Johnson is a very good player. He's good in pass pro. He's a good runner. I don't know if he has the straight line speed that Herbert does.
And even then, Herbert, I mean, he should have had a touchdown run, and he got caught from behind.
Yeah, he did.
He's got the old Matt Forte speed going on.
I know,
where he makes a nice cut.
Forte was a smooth runner, though. He just had. He ran like a fucking gazelle. He didn't. But the thing that Roschon brings to this team, though, is he just has that hit stick. He just lays it on second and third level guys. Like, if he can stay healthy, hopefully he can. I mean, that can do something to an offense. That can do something to an opposing defense. So I'm excited to see what he can do with lead reps, with the caveat of being that I hope Herbert gets healthy very soon. So I'm not the most concerned, no.
I agree. No, I think they're built to withstand some injuries. Let's hope that Roschon can clear, with the additional time. Let's hope he plays. I want to, like I said, like you said, I want to see him with those first reps. So that would be good. The other thing we wanted to touch on, and I'm sure people have been waiting for us to do so, is the jettison of Chase Claypool to Miami. First of all, absolute props to Ryan Poles for getting anything for him. I'm absolutely shocked. I mean, most teams had to. Maybe the Dolphins were just like, listen, we want him here. I don't know why we want him here. Let's not play around. Let's just get him in. He's not going to cost a whole lot, which he understandably didn't. The Bears traded Claypool in a 7th round pick in the 2025 draft for basically a 6th round pick. So Chase Claypool, which it's extremely disappointing that it didn't work out, especially when you watch Joey Porter Jr. picking Odell Beckham's pocket to help the Steelers get a nice win and being the highest graded corner. Granted, I don't know if the Bears would have drafted Joey Porter Jr. That was the pick that the Bears had this past draft that they traded for Chase Claypool. So disappointing that it didn't work out. I think the Bears really, really needed him. It sounds like the coaches tried to get him to buy in. It sounds like he had some guys in his corner as well. You heard about how Justin talked about him. You heard about how Cole Kmet talked about him. It sounds like the Bears gave him every opportunity to be the guy they traded for. And unfortunately, just it never clicked. It didn't work out. It sounds like he was just a really big distraction. And I don't know if it has anything to do, if there's a connection there, but the offense has looked a lot better without him the last couple weeks.
Yeah, listen, neither one of us can sit here and pretend to act like we know what a bad personality or someone who just isn't vibing with the team or ownership or coaches, gentlemen, whatever, like what type of effect that truly has on a locker room. But I would assume at the very least there's a negative vibe around someone, right? Like that just, it can't be a good thing, I guess is what I'm saying. But then I hearken back to one of the things that Justin said, and this is pure speculation, all those out there. This isn't, me reporting anything by any means. But one of the things he said was just people in his ear and things of that nature. And I think we all took that to mean there was too many coaches in his ear and things, which I do think that still means, what if a decent part or small part or big, but just a part of that was, I have this diva receiver who is also begging for the ball every fucking time, and he's not open, or like he's not running the right routes. I mean, we saw it last year, and we gave him the benefit of the doubt because he came through mid-season, don't know the playbook. We saw it again this year. He didn't know where to line up. Receiver Mooney has to tell him where to go. Justin had to check him and tell him where to go. Like, if you're dealing with things like that and you're also having a receiver, again, speculation, that's upset that he's not getting the touches that he thinks he deserves, that could be a pretty big detriment to a team, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So again, maybe I'm reading too much into that, but again, his negativity certainly couldn't be a good thing. Only other point that I have, Jack, is this is such a fucking positive for me in Ryan Poles' direction. I'm never gonna stick up for him sending a second, but I'm also not gonna rewrite history and act like we didn't understand why it happened when it happened.
Correct.
There's a lot of context that we've talked about. I'm not gonna dive into it again, but at the end of the day, he swung and missed. This is one of the worst trades in Bears history, probably. It was bad. There's no defending it. But the fact that he didn't say, I gave up this capital to get this guy, we're going to keep it here and make it work. He just said, no, you know what? I hope he does great on his next venture. He's gone. That, remember, we talked about this, Jackie. What were some of the early things that we look for in the new general manager when they hired Ryan Poles? And we said it's going to take a little bit. He's got to get some draft classes under his belt. He's got to make some trades, make some acquisitions. But the mark of a bad general manager, and bad coaches even, are guys who stick with people because they feel like they have to, whether it's a contract thing, whether it's I gave up draft capital for him, or I spent, like I drafted him in the first or second round. Again, just like you said, props that he was able to get anything at all. It doesn't make up for how bad that the trade was, but right. That still, to me, is the mark of a phenomenal, let me say phenomenal. That's the mark of someone who is at least heading in the right direction. Because I look at someone, I mean, look what happened in San Francisco. And actually, one of my homework assignments that I gave myself, Jack, for why I want to keep Ryan Poles after this year, regardless of what happens with the coaching staff, is sort of look around and see what other general managers did early in their career. Because the one that certainly popped out to me was John Lynch in San Francisco. They're in that same ballpark. They gave up, I mean, that was a way worse trade than the Claypool trade to get Trey Lance. And they just moved on from him. They really didn't even give him a chance to start. Like, he couldn't get past practices and things. Like, I know he got hurt and everything, but, you know, like, to me, that's a mark of, like, I don't care. We're getting the players who we know, who are bought in, who are here to play, who are, you know, good players. They're the ones that are going to play. And if you can't accept whatever role we give you beyond that, you're gone. I thought that was great.
Yeah, and, you know, you're talking about John Lynch. I think it's a great point because people also tend to forget that, yeah, the Bears passed on Patrick Mahomes, sure. But, you know, people were giving props to the 49ers for the haul they got for that Mitch trade, for the moving down one spot. But you know who the 49ers ended up drafting? Solomon Thomas. And it was that one linebacker, Reuben Foster.
Reuben Foster, yep.
Who had a nothing career. And so it's like, yeah, teams are going to make misses. And that's kind of what you have to hope at this point. You basically just have to hope that that trade that Ryan Poles made, he'll learn from it. He'll realize maybe there was a reason that a talented wide receiver was available. The Steelers obviously didn't want him. You know, maybe he'll think twice about that type of stuff. And let's just hope that that's the worst move of his career. Yeah, you just have to accept it. You have to move on. You're right. It is what it is. It really is unfortunate that it didn't work out because when the trade happened, we were excited because the Bears desperately needed a wide receiver to give Justin the chance to even appear to be the guy. Yep. And they still have to add at that position. They're not done. They still need to do that. So it is really unfortunate. And you heard Justin talking about it. Justin wanted it to work out because Chase Claypool is a playmaker. He can make plays. He's not a total bum when he's paying attention, when he's locked in, when he knows what he's supposed to be doing. And I think that was throwing off a lot of what this offense was trying to do in week one because you saw the missed blocks, you saw the laziness, and it's disappointing that it came back again. But he just never made the impact that that Bears fans, that the Bears, the team themselves, expected him to make. And he just never played like the guy that had the size that he did. And I think that spoke to a lot of maybe some of the things off the field. He never really wanted to be that type of receiver. So it is what it is. That's not who he is. You know, they're not going to change him. He's not going to change. You know, hopefully it works out in Miami for him. But yeah, I mean, props to Ryan Poles, like you said, for being willing to make a change. And I like that Eberflus, in that same vein, that's why I liked his defensive game plan this past Thursday because it was so different from what he'd been doing. He wasn't just being so stubborn, and that's where a lot of frustration was coming with Luke Getsy, where it's like, dude, just stop trying to. It's not going to work. You have to make adjustments, and I think we're starting to see that from this Bears organization, and let's hope it continues. Let's hope it continues. So that's all I have to say about the Bears week 5 win versus the Washington Commanders. The Chase Claypool stuff, the Herbert injury, all of that. Frankie, before we move on to our picks, is there anything else you wanted to discuss?
No. Get Tyler Scott more involved. That's what I want to see next week. Let's get into these picks, Jackie.
All right. Speaking of Thursday night, we got Denver at Kansas City. I am going to go with Kansas City. I think this is going to be an ugly game.
Yeah. The Chiefs, outside of them stomping the Bears, have been a little ugly this year. You talk about people who need to invest in the wide receiver position. I think they're a team as well. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. They're still showing you that they can find ways to win, and the Broncos are finding ways to lose. I'm going Chiefs.
Denver's talking fire sale, which is why I brought up Jerry Jeudy earlier.
Yep.
Man, they gave up a lot for Sean Payton, and I don't know, man. I don't know.
Can I just? I know we don't want this segment to be super long. Am I the only one who felt it was super corny for the Jets? The whole let's win it for Hackett. Never I know Sean he was out of line for saying what he said, but he wasn't fucking wrong. Everyone just skipped past the fact that he was right. That was one of the worst coaching jobs we've seen in our lifetimes. He shouldn't have said it, but to act like they were leave my coach's name out of your mouth and he was right though. Like pundits were saying this, NFL Network, ESPN, people who were they were all saying this, but because a coach said it, all of a sudden. And again, I don't like Sean Payton ever since the Bounty Gate and all that. I've been not a fan of his. So you root against him all you want, but it was just so weird that they made this the Hackett Bowl.
Yeah, I agree about the Sean Payton. I've hated him since since the Super Bowl that he decided to kick that fucking onside kick. Who does that?
It was brilliant.
No, I agree. I don't know why people are they made him a captain. They made their offensive coordinator captain.
I didn't know that. Jesus. And the funniest thing too is never mind. Let's keep going because I could keep going.
No, you're right. It's cornball behavior. That's terrible. But no, the Chiefs should easily win this game. Baltimore at Tennessee. I put a little LOL next to this because this might be the ugliest game of the week. I'm going Tennessee, but I really do not feel all that confident about it. Something is not right in Baltimore. That offense looks worse than it did last year somehow. DeAndre Hopkins finally had a big game. I'm going Tennessee. I'm going the opposite way, but I feel the same as you. I'm not very confident. Dude, this Ravens team it's been this way for years now. They're the worst good team in the league. They're just a fucking eyesore more times than not. They're dropping passes left and right. Nothing looks coordinated. We got to blame Greg Roman for the last couple of years. He's not there anymore. They need to pick it the fuck up. They got too much talent for this shit. But I'm going Ravens. Carolina at Miami. Come on, Miami. Let's go. Miami. Yeah. Miami might drop 70 again. They might. Dude, you know what's sort of been lost in all of this? And I didn't see this on his tape coming out. Bryce Young doesn't have a strong arm. No. He fluttered a few balls last week that I was like, that looked like Chad Pennington. There was a reason I had him as CJ Stroud as my QB1. Yeah. His tape coming out, he looked like he had more arm strength than that, though. I think a lot of that had to do with play calling. It could maybe it was, and maybe I mean it's always tough because not a lot of those dudes throw tight window passes in general. But you know what's weird though? For as much shit as Ohio State quarterbacks get, I feel like Alabama quarterbacks don't really have that stigma around them anymore. When there's only been a couple good ones that have really come from Alabama. You know what I mean? Yeah. Tua doesn't have the strongest arm, although I will say I give him credit. He does look like he's improved his arm strength a lot since being in this offense, but maybe that's just the offense. The one thing you can never take away from him was his ball placement and his timing. He had that in the bag. He also made some pretty bad throws again last week though. He did, and that's just sort of what he does sometimes. Because quarterbacks make mistakes and they're not always perfect.
There's no
Except Justin Fields always has to be for some reason and can't turn the ball over ever, but whatever. New Orleans at Houston. I struggled with this one a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you, but I'm going to go New Orleans because I do think they are the more complete team. I did like the game that Derek Carr played last week. I would have liked Houston to have just taken the brakes off and just beaten the crap out of Atlanta. But they didn't do that, Frankie. They came close, but I'm going to go New Orleans.
Jackie, a wise man once said that when you're having trouble deciding, you pick the better quarterback. I'm going with the Texans.
I like it.
CJ Stroud looks really good. I'm cheering for him, dude. He's been balling.
I'm glad I'm not really a Colts fan anymore. And for those listening, I did make this clear before the season, so don't. And the Colts look good. So it's not like I'm just jumping off because they're bad. I'm tired of them as an organization, and that Jonathan Taylor contract was just
after Zach Moss is just going crazy. That was absurd.
I'm glad I can root for CJ Stroud in Houston because
he's
you're
fun
right.
to watch, dude.
He's really good. He makes some really nice throws, and he's throwing with receivers that are just like, come on, man. Like
Nico Collins, I think is a guy though. All the rest of them, but I like Nico Collins.
Tank looks good.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him as well.
Yeah, get him some weapons.
He's Tank Bell.
Dell.
And then
like
there's
the
Tank
computer.
Bigsby. Why do we have two tanks?
Jacksonville? And
then I'm a boxing fan. There's a tank that's a boxer. I don't like this.
Okay. Take it up with the tank board, I guess. I don't know who decides that. Washington at Atlanta. I'm going Atlanta, but again, I don't feel super confident in that. Dude, why do they got their weapons a little more involved? So give them credit there. Desmond Ridder had a nice bounce back game. The Washington just lost to the Bears though, so that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm going Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going Commanders. The Commanders, not for nothing. I'm glad the Bears won. They looked off. They looked. I don't know. Maybe it was something the Bears were doing game plan wise. It could be that, but
I will say, I was more impressed with Sam Howell than I have been. Maybe it's just getting him a chance to watch. I like some of the toughness he brings.
Yeah, well, and he's a solid. He comes to me. I don't think he's going to be a starter long term anywhere, but he has that like just professional quarterback, high level backup, or like a team in transition. He's I think going to wind up being that guy, which isn't a bad thing to be. He's a solid quarterback,
like a Case Keenum.
Yep, that type
guy. Yeah,
that type.
All right. And who are you going with? Sorry, Washington?
I'm going with Washington, yes.
Washington, okay. Indianapolis at Jacksonville. Nice little revenge game for Gardner Minshew. If Anthony Richardson was playing, I may be tempted to take the Colts here, but I'm going to go Jacksonville. I like the game that Jacksonville played. Their defense is really good. Had a really, really good game in London. But I'm going to go Jacksonville at home.
I'm going Jacksonville as well. And that offense is starting to pick it up a little bit too.
Dude, T-Law, he might not have the best numbers right now, especially fantasy-wise, but you just watch some of the dimes he drops, man. It's impressive stuff. I think he'll get it picked up pretty quick here.
He reminds me, honestly, of a younger Andrew Luck in the sense that, he's so talented, high IQ, but then there's like 3 throws a game where you're just like, one, why did you make that decision? Or
he'll fumble a lot, too. He turns the ball over a little too much.
Or it's just like, the throw was really bad itself. But shit happens. I mean, just like you said, quarterbacks make mistakes sometimes.
Yeah. And Ryan Tannehill just torched this Colts defense. So I think Trevor Lawrence can probably do the same.
Yeah.
Seattle at Cincinnati. I went a little back and forth with this one, too. I'm not going to lie to you. It's some good games this week. But I'm going to pick Seattle coming off the bye.
Wow.
I want to see Joey B and Jamar Chase. I want to see them prove it 2 weeks in a row before I pick them again.
Listen, I'm going Cincy. I think Joey B is back. He still didn't look 100%, but he's probably like 85 or 90.
All right. I'm not going to criticize you. I don't feel like saving this. They're not good enough. They're not worth our time to save for the end anymore. Minnesota at Chicago. That being said, them being a 3-point dog at home to another 1-4 team, I don't know if I really agree with that. I'm taking the Bears, Frank. Justin Jefferson might miss this game.
He's extremely doubtful as the latest update. Yep.
The Bears get a little bit of extra rest. They might get some of their guys back. Like I said, that secondary might be a little more healthy. This is not a very good defense. I think this is another defense that Justin should be able to shred a little bit. So we'll see how many more times. This might be the last time. This might be the last snake bite if they lose this game where I do this. But I'm feeling good off a win. I'm going Chicago.
I'm feeling good off of a win as well, especially with Justin Jefferson probably being out. I'm going Bears, baby.
Yeah,
but and this is the last point that I forgot about. That's why the fucking Broncos game hurts.
They could be 3-3.
You could be 3-3 right now. Because again, I don't know if I said this last pod, but like, had you told us, oh yeah, the Bears are starting off the season 2-3, forget that they lost 3 in a row and then won 2 in a row. It's like, oh, I'll take 2-3. Are you kidding me? It's a solid little record.
Disappointing how'd they get there, right?
Right. But, forget even how they got there. Just the numbers 2-3 after 5, I would have been completely okay with.
Yep.
You'd have told me 1-4. It didn't matter if it was 3 in a row or what it looked like. Like, that's not good. I don't like that. So, God, but I'm going Bears.
Jordan Addison might put up 200 yards receiving.
I feel like KJ Osborne's going to go for 250 and 3 touchdowns.
I wish this wasn't a noon game because I feel like Kirk is just gonna go nuts.
Kirk hasn't. Let's
see if that pass rush can get to him. Let's see if they.
Listen, people laugh at it, people scoff at it, whatever. But like stacking games is important. And
I agree.
If that defensive line can have another solid game again, I mean, you're on to something. You start to believe in yourselves. You start to believe in this scheme. I want to see another step from Dexter.
I agree. And again, I don't think this Vikings team is very good at one specific thing. They don't have a run game that really scares you, right?
No. The Bears' run defense, while it's not great, it has gotten better from last year. So that is a plus. Right. But the thing is, if they can't finish sacks on Kirk Cousins, dude, fire this defensive line into the fucking sun because they made Sam Howell look like Michael Vick, and Kirk Cousins isn't even half of the athlete than Sam Howell is. Yeah. So like, give me a fucking break.
Without Justin Jefferson. That's a huge asterisk for me that the Bears should win this game.
Yeah.
And Justin should continue. I don't know if he'll throw 4 touchdowns. I'd love it. I'd love for that to happen. I don't know if it will, but he should play well against this defense.
Yeah.
Because again, there's really nothing that stands out that scares you. So we'll see. San Francisco at Cleveland. I'm going San Fran.
San Fran. Yep.
New England. Man, we've touched on it a little bit. It does not get talked about enough how a team trades 3 first-round picks for a guy, drafts a quarterback with the last pick in the draft, and that guy is the guy that they roll with and haven't lost with. I don't think they've lost a game that he's started in the regular season. It's insane. New England at the Raiders. We'll see how the Raiders look tonight against the Packers. I have to go Raiders. I can't pick the Patriots anymore. Mac Jones, dude. We got a lot of shit for that when we talked about Mac Jones in that rookie season on this podcast. And it was nothing against him as like whatever, but this is the guy we thought he would probably end up being. I thought he would be a little bit better. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought he'd be maybe like a Sam Howell type quarterback, but dude, he's just bad. He's just bad.
Yeah. Listen, Bill Belichick is going to get fired after this season or amicably resign.
Relieved of his duties.
There's no way he continues to be a part of this dumpster fire. That he's contributing
because he's also a bad GM.
He's a really bad GM.
And that hasn't gotten talked about enough.
I mean, he's got fucking 6 rings.
Right, because he had the greatest quarterback of all. Jackie, I know it's a tough debate, but
it's not a tough debate. It's not. The people act like he just got fucking gifted Andrew Luck or something. He got gifted a 6th-round quarterback that they developed. The defense won them 3 rings, baby.
I agree. But things have changed in
they have
30 years.
Well, the longevity was because of Tom Brady. Let's not get that twisted. But the first few people act like Tom just came and saved the day in New England.
Why that was my argument for why Tom wasn't the greatest quarterback of all time, because the first 3 Super Bowls were the defense. He made some nice throws, sure.
I mean, but even if
did Eli Manning. And Eli Manning is talked about like one of the greatest of all
this
times.
Is the thing, though. If you take those 3 away, I still think he's the greatest.
That's what I'm saying, because he won it when he won in Tampa. I gave it to him.
Yeah. I mean, he's won
That
four
win,
after that, dude.
the win against the Falcons, I was like, all right.
No, that was
probably
great.
close.
That was it for me. That was the one.
Yeah,
That
it's
was when
probably
he
close.
passed Joe Montana for me.
Yeah. That's
That
when
was
it was
nuts.
close. And then he went to Tampa, and I'm like, all right, it's not just Bill Belichick. It's Tom. All right, fine.
All right, Tom, I guess.
But now it's Justin Fields. So
yeah,
who am I
of
to
course.
talk?
I'm going Raiders as well, though. Wow, they're a dumpster fire. New England, that is.
Yeah. Detroit at Tampa Bay. I am going to go with Detroit for this game. Aiden Hutchinson, goddamn fucking Jacksonville. Really? You really could? They overthought it. They overthought what they were doing. They didn't draft the best player, and now the NFC North has to pay the consequences for 10 plus years. Goddamn.
He's so fucking good, dude.
Yeah, he's really good. But I'm going Detroit.
I'm going Detroit as well. I mean, I you know how high I was on them coming in, and they are fucking firing on all cylinders right now. They look good.
Yep. Arizona at Rams. I'm going with the Rams. Arizona kind of came back. I think they're starting to come back down to earth a little bit here, and Cooper Kupp stepped right in, and fortunately for my darling boy Puka, but hey, he proved he can still exist in this offense.
I thought
people were going nuts, man.
To me, it was like you don't see the other guys who are actually getting reps over like they're going to get taken away. Like Tutu Atwell, he's a goner. Van Jefferson, he's probably not even hitting the field anymore. Like it's Puka is going to be fine. You don't do what he did through 4 games, 5 games, and here comes Cooper Kupp. Now my role's gone. No, cut it out. I'm going Rams as well. I mean, they're sneaky. They might fuck around and be a playoff team this year in the NFC, Jack.
Yeah, they got to win. They got to start winning some games though. But I think they will. They were playing a tough team, obviously.
2-3. So. They win this, they're 500.
Yeah, and again, there's like half the league has one win or less. So
I know.
Philadelphia at the Jets. I'm going Philly, but I need Jalen Hurts to start picking it up a little bit. He hasn't looked all that great to me, if I'm being completely honest with you. And this is a tough defense. It's a tough defense to play against. So this will be a really good test for them. Granted, the other side of the football, dude, people who bought into Zach, your boy Zach, come on, man. This is the defense that everybody was like, oh, Justin Fields, he only threw 4 touchdowns and 300 yards because the Broncos are terrible. What did Zach Wilson do? Nothing. He didn't do shit.
Yeah. It was bad.
What are we doing here? I'm going Philly.
He's not good. I'm going Philly. I'm surprised you even paused before you picked Philly and even felt the need to dive in deep. Philly is going to beat the shit out of Zach Wilson. It just is what it is. Yeah. Dude, I don't want to even stoke the flames. Let's move on.
Not on today of all days.
Well, Jalen Carter's made a couple plays last week that was really fucking good. But so did Darnell Wright. Everyone brings up Jalen Carter, and they never talk about the best rookie tackle in the game right now.
It's also a little strange that people pick on the Bears for not drafting Jalen Carter. There were 10 other teams that didn't draft, or 9 other teams that didn't draft him.
The Lions traded back, didn't they? And instead of taking
8 other teams didn't draft him because the Texans drafted twice. So that doesn't necessarily count. But there are plenty of other teams that didn't draft. Whatever.
I know. But then you know what though? Who would the Bears be starting at right tackle if they didn't draft Darnell Wright? Who would be
Borum?
People wanted that, you think?
We talked about it. I think we would have been okay with it, right?
No. We wanted Borum gone. We were okay with Braxton Jones.
We wanted them to sign somebody, and then they didn't. They didn't get McGlinchey. They didn't get Orlando Brown Jr., who's also been bad. They didn't get Jawan Johnson,
who's been iffy. He's been okay, but he went from right to left though.
He's the guy who they keep making fun of because he's in the backfield.
Yeah, he's lining up in the backfield. Wait, but that call, Jack, I saw. Who was I watching yesterday? Someone got called for it as well. I'm like, is this one of those emphasis things this year in the NFL? Because
or it might be one of those things where someone saw him doing it and they're like, we should try doing that.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
They call him flag.
I don't know what the hell's going
on. Sunday night, man, this should be flexed out hard if they can. Giants at Buffalo. I'm not even going to preempt this. Buffalo, dude, Giants, fucking terrible. What is going on in New York?
Their offensive line is awful, and Daniel Jones isn't playing,
They might
his
have the
best
worst
football.
offensive line in football. They may be worse than the Bears.
Oh, it's not even. No, the Bears don't have a bad offensive line. I think they're about average, especially with Tevin. This team, that offensive line. I mean, again, feel however you want about Daniel Jones. I think me and you have been on record, throwing jokes at his contract. But my God, no quarterback could live in that offense. I mean, there are plays where as soon as he calls hike, he's on the ground. I
texted you. It was like the Cleveland game.
Yeah. But even worse than that, his offensive line is like that the Jay Cutler offensive line where the Giants had like 8 sacks in the first half. It's that, but for 5 weeks now, 6 going into week 6. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then he looks petrified. They show him making checks at the line, and he's just like, you ever see his face?
Yeah.
Just looking around. He has the funniest. Yeah, I'm going Bills.
He does have quite the face. It's pretty laughable. And man, Josh Allen might put up. I'm glad I have him in fantasy because he might put up a career day against this defense.
He probably will. Yeah.
Dallas at the Chargers for Monday Night Football. I'm reluctantly picking the Chargers coming off a bye. I've liked the way Herbert's been playing. Dallas's defense is just not what it was at the beginning of the season. And Dak, I just don't know what to make of this offense, man. This Dallas team, it's the same team. People are talking about Super Bowl. This is when they make the playoff, yada, yada. It's the same Dallas Cowboys team we've seen for the last 20 years. Give me the Chargers at home. Do I feel good about it? No. But you told me to pick the better quarterback.
Wow.
I'm going Justin Herbert because I think Justin Herbert is going to establish himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
I generally agree that Herbert is a better quarterback. That being said, Dak Prescott is due for a game or two like that every single season. It just is what it is. I think he gets it together, and I'm going Dallas.
Okay. All right. And the bye week teams for your fantasy purposes, Green Bay and Pittsburgh are the 2 teams on bye. Yeah, I mean, we'll see if the Bears can beat Minnesota. I think it would be a huge win if they can. Obviously, this season it's kind of teetering. If they go 1-5, Frank, I think that's pretty much it for Eberflus. If they win this game, I think there's a legitimate possibility that he may buy himself another, at least through the end of the season.
I think it gets there anyway, though, Jack. I mean, because who is going to be? Are we going to do the Colts thing and bring in fucking Lance Briggs or something? Like, who's going to coach the team? Because the DC's already gone. Lou Getsy cannot fucking fail upwards.
No. And I think you got to hope that without Claypool, the off the field stuff, the distractions go away. Right? Nothing else can happen to this team. Right?
Jackie, when fucking, when one of our players gets arrested on a murder charge or something, you're going to regret you just said that.
I was looking at that locker room, the post game when everyone's dancing, right? They're having a good time. And I remember Nagy and like he seemed like such a player's coach. Like he was having a good time. Guys were surrounded. I saw it with Flus in there, man. He looked so uncomfortable. He looked like he would rather have been anywhere else.
He
looked
your mouth.
So
you
uncomfortable.
Shut your mouth when you talk about Eberflus. We're coming back and we're making the playoffs.
In this league, in this season, it's like very possible. Wins. God damn. It's rough out here.
Oh, man.
But no, that'll do it for this week's edition of the Bear With Us podcast. I'm Jack. He's Frank. We do really appreciate you guys listening as always. Go check us out on YouTube. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit that little thumbs up. I don't know what the thumbs up does because we don't
get any. It helps us get
in
the algorithm.
Oh, well then keep doing it because I want that money. I want those dollars. That I can then put back into the podcast, of course.
Exactly.
I would never beg for likes, Frank. I wouldn't fucking do that.
Why not?
All right?
What's wrong with that?
I don't know. People say that. I don't know why. Isn't that the whole point?
Yep.
Isn't that what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to like get whatever. I don't get it. Keep listening to the podcast wherever you can. Check us out on YouTube if you want to look at our faces while we do this podcast. I don't know why you would, to be honest. Well, maybe Frank. I could see you wanting to look at Frank's face.
I've been called handsome. All right,
we'll leave it at that. Thanks for listening. Go Bears.
Later, Jackie. Later, everybody.